Hi, and welcome to Russ's Movie Corner. I'm Russ, and I'm in front of my movie wall, and today I'm talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this is one of my first ever movie reviews, where I'm going to be reviewing a movie from the theater. And I'll be doing some DVD reviews. As you can see, I have a whole wall of DVDs behind me. So I have a lot to cover if I want to get through all of these movies, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get through them all. But today we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp was directed by Peyton Reed and stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Pena, Hannah John Kamen, Randall Park, and Lawrence Fishburne. Ant-Man was a very surprising breath of fresh air. In fact, the original Ant-Man I have right here. It was a surprising breath of fresh air after Avengers: Age of Ultron. The thing about the Avengers was that it had a lot of funny moments, but something happened in Phase 2 where Marvel kind of went into this serious phase where they kind of made a lot of serious movies like Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: Winter Soldier. They were very serious. They still had little teeny moments of humor in them. But it's like, it wasn't the same thing as we saw in Phase 1. Gone were likable characters, gone were certain things, and so that's one of the major things that I think a lot of people kind of missed out of Phase 2 was that humor, those likable characters like Robert Downey Jr. I mean, that was one of the things about Iron Man 3 was it kind of was down here compared to 1 and 2. And so a lot of people were kind of disappointed. So Marvel kind of figured out that there was this formula. And so we saw that with Black Panther. We saw that with a lot of actually the Phase 3 movies, Thor Ragnarok and Captain America Civil War. We saw a return to those lovable characters and humor. And that was one of the things that I think started with Ant-Man. Was they had Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, and it was a return to those origin stories that people really enjoyed about the Marvel Universe. And that was, I think, one of the things, by going kind of back in time and showing Hank Pym as a young man and then kind of coming forward to the present, and it's like, ooh, we have this new Ant-Man. And so that's kind of where we pick up with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So for those of you that are familiar with Captain America Civil War, this particular movie actually really kind of takes place right after Captain America Civil War. So the interesting thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that whenever they release a movie, so like this movie was released in I believe it was 2015. So this movie was released towards the end of 2015, and so and then Civil War was in 2016. So they've actually kind of fast forwarded to 2018. So now we have this. Now you're probably thinking, well, Avengers: Infinity War came out this year, and yes, it did. These events take place literally days before Infinity War, before Thanos comes down and starts the Infinity War. So we have. Scott is kind of under house arrest in this movie, and he has been for 2 years since the events of Civil War. So a lot of those events are interconnected, and so that's one of the things that I think is really interesting about this movie. So the thing is that you have to understand the timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have to really kind of think that they're trying to put these in order chronologically, okay? So like the original Iron Man does take place in 2008, and so now here it is 10 years later. We've had all of these superheroes, we've had all of these things happen, and so like the Accords are still in place, and Thanos hasn't come to the Earth yet, so we haven't had anything happen. And so that's one of the things that they do, because they perfectly fit the Sokovia Accords into the movie. It's why Hank and Hope are on the run in this movie, is because of the Accords and because of Scott, what he did in Germany. So it's really interesting how they kind of connect these two events together. And so in this one, we actually see Evangeline Lilly's Hope Van Dyne becoming the Wasp. Also, if you saw the original Ant-Man, you know that Janet Van Dyne disappeared. They actually heavily deal with this in the new Ant-Man and the Wasp. So that's one of the cool things about this movie, is that it really kind of delves deeply more into the themes that were kind of touched upon in the first one. And there's some funny moments of Scott getting stuck as a midget, and Hope like shooting people with blasters, and Scott going, "Didn't you have that tech available for me?" And and Hank's like, "Yeah, I did." So it's pretty interesting to actually sit down and watch these films now, because there are setups that happen in earlier movies, like in Ant-Man, that are now paying off in the Ant-Man and the Wasp. You have quirks, quips, you have chemistry between the characters. They bring in Bill Foster, whom, if you're a big comic book fan, Bill Foster was Goliath. So, he figured out, using the Pym particle, how to make himself, in the comics anyway, gigantic, permanently gigantic. And for those of you that have read the original Civil War arc, there was AI Thor that came down and actually killed Bill Foster. But it's interesting because they have Lawrence Fishburne play Bill Foster. And it's kind of a neat story. And the story just really just works on so many levels. And so I'd recommend that if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, go see this movie. It is excellent. If you're not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you want just a good action film, I'd recommend go find this movie, give it a watch, and then go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. You don't necessarily need to see Civil War, because they kind of recap a lot of it for you. So I would definitely just say, hey, go and just watch this movie, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And overall, it's just a great film. It's a great addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and a wonderful film all rolled into one. So I can't wait to see what they do with Captain Marvel in February of 2019. I think it's going to be a great lead-in to the thing, and stick around for the tag scenes, especially if you've seen Infinity War, because the tag scenes will be important. There's actually two. There's one mid-credits, and then there's one post-credits. The post-credit one, probably not as important, but definitely do stick around for the mid-credits tag scene, because it is definitely connects the Marvel Universe together. And so we'll just kind of have to see what's going to happen in Avengers Infinity War Part 2, or Avengers 4, as some people are calling it. So, anyway, my rating for this movie right here is 5 out of 5 seagulls eating ants. And until you see the movie, you won't understand that. Poor Scott. I'm Russ for Russ's Movie Corner. Thank you for watching.